The ghost plane, 121 people silent at 34,000 feet. On August 14, 2005, the Greek Air Force scrambled 2 F-16 fighter jets to intercept a passenger plane that had gone silent. What they found at 34,000 feet terrified them. The plane was flying perfectly, but inside it was a tomb. The passengers were frozen in their seats, oxygen masks dangling from the ceiling, and the cockpit was empty. This is the tragic story of Helios Airways Flight 522, the ghost flight that flew for hours with everyone on board unconscious, waiting for the inevitable end. The alarm that confused the pilots. The flight took off from Cyprus heading to Prague with a stopover in Athens. It was a routine holiday flight with 115 passengers and 6 crew members. The captain was an experienced 59-year-old veteran, but there was a history of tension between him and the first officer. As the Boeing 737 climbed past 12,000 feet, a piercing warning horn blasted in the cockpit. The pilots were confused. It sounded exactly like the takeoff configuration warning, an alarm that should only go off on the ground if the flaps aren't set. They assumed it was a computer glitch. They contacted ground engineers asking, "Where are the circuit breakers for the cooling fan?" The engineer on the ground was puzzled. He asked, "Is your pressurization switch set to auto?" The captain ignored the question, obsessed with the circuit breaker. It was the last communication ever heard from the plane. The silent ascent and the F-16S. The real problem wasn't a cooling fan, it was a switch. The night before, an engineer had tested the plane for leaks and left the pressurization dial on manual instead of auto. The pilots missed it during their pre-flight checks. As the plane climbed, the air inside became thinner and thinner. Without pressurization, the pilots began suffering from hypoxia, oxygen starvation. Hypoxia is a silent killer. It makes you confused and euphoric before you pass out. The pilots didn't realize they were suffocating. Within minutes, they fell unconscious. The plane, on autopilot, continued to climb to 34,000 feet, flying its programmed route to Athens. For 2 hours, the ghost plane circled over Athens in a holding pattern. The Greek military, fearing a 9/11-style terrorist attack, sent fighter jets to shoot it down if necessary. The F-16 pilots reported a chilling sight. The captain's seat was empty, the first officer was slumped over the controls, and the passengers were motionless. The flight attendant who tried to save them. But there was one person still awake. As the F-16S watched, they saw a man enter the cockpit. It was Andreas Prodromou, a flight attendant who held a commercial pilot's license. He had managed to stay conscious using portable oxygen bottles. For hours, he had walked through a cabin of sleeping people, unable to wake them. In a desperate final act, he entered the cockpit and put on the headset. He tried to radio Mayday, but the radio was still tuned to the wrong frequency. He waved weakly at the F-16 pilots. But it was too late. The plane's engines flamed out from fuel starvation. Andreas banked the plane away from Athens, aiming for the hills to avoid killing people on the ground. At 12:04 p.m., the plane crashed into the mountains of Grammatico, killing all 121 souls on board instantly. Helios Flight 522 remains one of aviation's most haunting tragedies. It wasn't caused by a bomb or a storm, but by a single switch left in the wrong position. It taught the world that at 30,000 feet, the air is the only thing that matters. Question for the audience. Do you think modern planes should have automatic systems to detect if pilots are unconscious? Let me know in the comments.